Dr. Amir. Welcome to the podcast. I think it's the first time I have a actual doctor on the like not a professor, that's what I mean. So an actual medical professional on the podcast. So I'm very excited to talk to you.
Very cool. I'm excited too. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, absolutely. So tell our audience a little bit about kind of your background, who you are, what you're doing these days.
Okay. I mean, it started out, I was 9 years old and we were traveling in these remote villages in Iran. And I was with my father and a woman went into labor. And long story short, there were no doctors, no hospitals. The midwife said she's not going to make it. I'm sorry, there's no heartbeat and the baby's not alive. And so anyways, at the age of 9, I saw this woman slowly pass away in her husband's arms. And I felt so helpless that I decided I didn't want to feel like that ever again. So at that moment, I made a decision. I'm going to go be a surgeon. I'll be the best surgeon in the whole world and carry my medical bag with me everywhere I go so I could save lives. 10 years passed. I was a student at George Washington University, and I went home for Christmas break, and my dad had a neck brace on, and he was under the influence of some heavy painkillers, and he was limp and numb from the shoulders down. He couldn't lift his arms to even give me a hug to say hello. And we went doctor to doctor trying to figure out what is wrong with my dad. And every doctor said, no, you have to go to this other doctor. This is beyond my scope. We ended up in a neurosurgeon's office. He said, the only option is you have to have surgery. It's a pretty invasive surgery. We're going to break and remove the bones in the back of the spine, put rods and screws on the sides, fuse your whole neck, and you may not regain function of your hands, but we're hoping you'll have less pain. And he said, there's a chance you won't survive the surgery because you're old. And Dad was 70 years old at the time, and he was terrified of the surgery. So was I. And when we got in a taxi to go home after that neurosurgeon visit, I was carrying all of Dad's x-rays and MRIs and CTs in the back of this taxi. I looked at my dad, and I could tell the amount of pain he was in. He didn't want to live anymore. And I started to get a little teary-eyed, kind of remembering watching that woman pass away in her husband's arms and feeling that helplessness. And now I'm feeling the same thing all over again. Well, the taxi driver looked at Dad and I in the rearview mirror, and he said, sir, I noticed you're in a lot of pain, and I know you asked me to take you home, but there's a chiropractor right down the street. Would you rather me take you there? And, Dad being terrified of the surgery, he said, yeah, let's try it. So we showed up. The chiropractor looked at those x-rays and MRIs that I was carrying and looked at my dad. He said, I can help you, but you got to be here 6 days a week for the next 6 months. If you give me 6 months, I'll get you better. And Dad said, whatever, let's do it. So literally 6 months later, Dad had full use of his hands back. He was able to turn his head. He had no pain. Dad lived to be 88 years old. He lived long enough to, stand next to me as my best man when I got married. He lived long enough to meet my first son when he was born. And that's what inspired me to go towards chiropractic. So it's kind of like surgery, except we don't cut anybody, but we do shift things on the inside to take pressure off nerves, balance the body, and get it to function better. So today I live in Frederick, Maryland. I have 2 offices. We're a team of about 15 staff employees and 3 doctors. We see over 20,000 patient visits on an annual basis between the 2 offices. Things are going great, and we're able to help a lot of people and enjoy life too.
Yeah, that's a beautiful story. I got goosebumps. I was like, oh my gosh, it's very nice when being in my talent development space. I always wonder how people get into their careers. So it's always such a beautiful story when there's some personal stories behind it and that true passion. So I'm curious. In your practice, so that's kind of what pushed you towards that. And so what do you feel is the biggest misconception people think about chiropractors? Because when I think about, I'm like, oh, they're gonna break me in pieces. So tell me a little bit more.
Yeah, that's it really. People think chiropractic is for back pain and neck pain. And the original textbook on chiropractic never mentioned back pain once. Was never about back pain. It's about making sure your brain is in proper communication with all the cells, tissues, and organs in your body. The brain becomes the spinal cord, goes down the spine, branches out into nerves, and goes to every cell, every tissue, and every organ in your body. As long as there's no interference in that system of nerves, your body should function properly. That's called normal. But if something interferes with one of those nerves, well, your body can't do what it was designed and created, programmed to do. It'll do a different thing. And that's where injury, illness, and other disorders come about. My job as the chiropractor is find that interference and remove it so I can restore the body to its default settings.
Hmm. What is the biggest, I guess, disorder or a challenge that you see in individuals? Like, is there like a top three that you see?
Yeah, so that question can be asked from two different perspectives. So if you ask from the perspective of the patient, the condition is pain.
Mm,
Most people wait till they're hurting and then they come in to see us. So our focus becomes, let's first get them out of pain, then strengthen their body so they're more resilient, then add years to their life, longevity, and then make sure they always feel younger than their age. So feel better, get stronger, live longer, feel younger. Now, if you ask it from my perspective, I go, the reason you're in pain is because of your inability to tolerate the stress in your life.
mm,
Because how healthy you are is determined by how much stress you can safely handle. We all know people who can do a lot of stuff. They achieve. You're one of those. You're a high achiever. You've got technically multiple professions, and you operate a very successful podcast, and you've got a pretty cool YouTube channel, and all of that. So you're achieving a lot of things. Someone else might come up to you and say, wow, how do you handle all that? How do you do all that? And you go, well, I just do. I started with this and I went up to this and I added this. You grew into that because the body can adapt. The human being can adapt, and we need to be under stress to adapt. If we cannot adapt to the stress, or we overload ourselves beyond what our capacity for that stress is, that's when we're susceptible to illness and injury. So if you ask my patients what takes you to the chiropractor, they'll say pain. If you
mm.
ask me, I'll say, well, you're just not healthy enough to tolerate the stress in your life.
Hmm. So what? So how does stress, if you can go deeper into how does stress connect to that physical aspect, right? So like that where and how do you guys make patients, I guess, feel better? So what are some like what are the symptoms, I guess, maybe like if somebody's listening to this, what are the symptoms of stress impacting the body?
Yeah, so first we have to define the word stress,
Mm-hmm.
because the average person would say, "Oh, stress is when I'm all stressed out," meaning I'm having a difficult relationship with my employees, or I'm having a difficult relationship with my spouse, or my children are stressing me out. That's not stress. That's your response to the stress. True
Mm,
stress, the definition of it is that it's a force that causes change in your life. And stress will approach you in three separate dimensions. So first, just remember the word force. It's a force. Stress is a force. So three dimensions are physical, chemical, and psycho-emotional. So the stress most people talk about is psycho-emotional. Oh, I'm having financial problems. That's
mm,
psycho-emotional stress. But really, it's just a force. So that kind of stress can cause two separate results. Well, a spectrum of results, but let's go to the ends of the spectrum. One person under financial stress, they pack up their bags, they leave, they shut their doors, they walk away from their dream. As an entrepreneur, they quit, right? They say it's too stressful. I'm having financial problems. I'm never going to make it. But then the other end of the spectrum is you innovate, you step up, you work a little harder, you do a little more, you overcome, and then you build the groundwork and the foundation for a successful business or an endeavor of some sort that does succeed. So the financial stress, the emotional, psychological stress that hit you led to one of those two outcomes. So we go to the physical dimension, let's say exercise. Well,
mm-hmm.
exercise is stress on the muscles and the joints. If you do it properly, you get stronger. If you do it improperly, you get hurt. It's not the stress, it's how you deal with it.
Mm,
And another example is anger. Some people under anger will commit a crime. Other people will get angry, and we call that righteous anger, where they get so angry at the situation they're in. They say, I am tired. I'm sick and tired of being sick and tired. I'm
mm,
going to take charge of my life. I'm going to step out of this. I'm going to hire a great personal trainer. I'm going to start working out. I'm going to start eating right. I am done with this life. That's anger too. That led to a positive outcome. Money is a force. It's neutral. Money can fund terrorist activity and lead to terrible tragedies, but it can
mm,
also put your children through college. You can't say money is good or bad. It's neutral. It's how you use it. And in
mm,
the chemical dimension, because we mentioned three dimensions, right? Psycho-emotional, physical, and chemical. The chemical is either, am I putting proper nutrition in my body? Am I meeting the deficiencies of the vitamins, minerals, enzymes, coenzymes? And am I removing toxicity? Because it's a two-sided coin. There's toxicity in the body. Stop smoking, stop drinking, whatever it might be. Those are toxins. Remove the toxicity, feed the deficiencies. That would be the chemical dimension.
That's very interesting. I always looked at it from that kind of, I never looked from that chemical dimension. And you're absolutely right. Because a lot of times we don't feel what's happening in the body until like maybe later on in age, like, right? So a lot of things we could just keep putting stuff in our bodies, whatever it may be, even food, some food is just, not great for us these days. So, and then it just kind of breaks down. Almost your body is like, it's like a car, like you're not changing the oil. So detoxing, I imagine, is very important in general. What are some steps? Somebody's listening to this is like, okay, I might have some of these things going on. What is the first step for somebody to take? Like, where do you start if you don't know where to start?
Yeah, very good. So it's a personal assessment. You can start out by just analyzing where you are on the stress spectrum. So stress spectrum is pretty wide. When you're first stressed out, and I'm going to simplify it for you into just 3 phases. You're going to be in one of these 3. Either you're not stressed, or if you're in a negative stress loop, you start out by being wired. Wired means you're heightened, pupils dilate, heart rate goes up, blood pressure goes up, blood leaves the face and the hands and the feet, digestion slows down, immune system slows down. That's when, so I'll give you a quick story. I was in Iran, and you're familiar with that part of the world. And the war started. This is, 1981, 82, I think, when the war started. So we were in Tehran one night. My mother said, turn the radio on before you go to bed tonight. So I turn on the radio, I go to sleep. There's no programming, it's silent. Then a little after midnight, this loud siren blares through the radio, and I jump out of bed, and it's an air raid siren. It means the fighter planes are overhead and they're starting to drop bombs, which means go to the basement, go hide. So jump out of bed with my family, walk down the hallway, walk down the stairs, all the way to the basement. All the rest of the families from that building are there. We're all terrified. And then we hear this roar of this jet plane overhead. Then we hear the whistle of a bomb that had just been dropped. And the whistle is getting louder and louder as the bomb is getting closer and closer. You have no idea where it is. It's too high pitched, so you can't place it. It could be right over your head, or it could be a block away. And all you can do is just hope, wait, pray. And eventually there was an explosion. The, walls shook and the lights flickered, and we realized that bomb hit someone else. It wasn't us. And, but during that time, that's when you're in that state of stress. Now, something like that persists long term, because that's just a moment. That's just a few seconds, a few minutes, whatever it is. And then you go back to bed. Now, someone who's under stress, if they're trying to achieve something, a business that's having financial issues, a marriage that's fallen apart, they're being bombed on like that constantly, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. So first you're wired, then you reach a stage called wired and tired. You'll hear people say, I'm too tired to fall asleep. That's the person who puts his head on the pillow, her head on the pillow, and this thought is circulating in their brain. They can't shut it off. They're exhausted. They want to sleep, but they can't shut off their brain. It's equivalent to being chased by a pack of hungry wolves and expecting to be able to stop and take a nap. You can't. You're scared. You're worried. You're nervous. It's not possible. You have to shift out of that fight or flight syndrome. That's called wired and tired. Then if you stay in that state long enough, years, you become fatigued. That's exhaustion. That's the person who falls asleep in the middle of a great movie. That's the person who can be sitting in church and they're dozing off. That's the person who can drink a big cup of coffee at night and still go to bed and sleep. Their adrenals are shot and they're just exhausted. So that's end stage. And when we reach that, that's when heart attacks can happen. That's when serious diseases take hold, cancer, diabetes, big problems. So we have to do that self-assessment. Where am I in that continuum? So some of the signs and symptoms, like you asked, are another example. So I had a patient come in, and all she told me at first is, my neck gets stiff. It locks up every once in a while. I'll be reaching for the soap or the shampoo in the shower, and all of a sudden my neck locks up and it hurts. and this keeps happening. We got to figure out what's going on. I said, okay, well, and maybe every chiropractor is not like this, but I want to dig a little deeper because I want to know why that keeps happening over and over and what else is going on. So I go, what do you do for a living? Long story short, she's a teacher. She's a middle school teacher. Now, middle schoolers, they come in all sizes and shapes. You got middle schoolers that look like they're 5 years old, and you got middle schoolers that look like they're grown men and everything in between because they all develop at different rates. That's a crazy age to be a teacher. And she's under a lot of stress. The administration's putting pressure on her. The parents are putting pressure on her, and the kids are unruly. And it's just a tough environment. So she's got a lot of stress. I said, what else are you dealing with? She said, well, my cholesterol's high, but my doctor has a medication for that. My blood pressure goes up, and I have another medication for that. And I get a lot of headaches. And she said, I get a lot of indigestion, so I take some antacids for that. And I have a lot of constipation. And I get all these sinus infections, recurrent sinus infections. But I take antibiotics for that. Really, the neck pain is all I'm worried about right now. And I go, do you realize all of those are one thing? All of those is your body's response to stress. When we go into fight or flight, the immune system slows down frequent sinus infections. Digestion slows down. If you've been in an athletic event, I was on the track team. I wasn't one of the best runners, but we had really high-level runners on our team, and they would all go throw up in the bushes before the big race because your digestion cannot be functioning properly right before a fight or flight event. So that's why she has constipation, chronic constipation for years. Another thing she said was she has trouble losing that belly fat. Well, high levels of cortisol preserves belly fat. You can't burn it. It's going to be very, very hard. So she goes, doesn't matter if I eat a lot or if I eat a little bit, the belly fat just doesn't go away and it just stays there. Blood pressure goes up when we're in fight or flight. Cholesterol actually goes up because cholesterol is the precursor to vitamin D, estrogen, progesterone, testosterone, growth hormone, and cortisol, all the hormones the body needs more of when we're under stress. So the liver produces more cholesterol. So all of these things. And then she was having dry eyes, dry mouth, dry skin, cold hands, and cold feet. Even during the summer, her hands and feet were always cold. Again, it's because in fight or flight, capillaries constrict to send blood to your muscles so you can run away. She was having memory issues. Why? Because under stress, the neocortex shuts down and more blood goes to the primitive centers of your brain. That's the part of your brain that works on survival. Do I need to run away or do I need to fight? So I go, listen, if we just shift your body out of fight or flight, because think about this too, that also leads to tension in the neck, muscle tension, tightness, stress, walking around like this all the time. That's going to cause that neck pain as well. So it's secondary. We had to bring her body out of fight or flight, and then her blood pressure normalized, cholesterol normalized, digestion normalized, immune system went up. She stopped needing antibiotics and blood pressure medication and headache pills. She became a normal person. Her stress level did not go down because that's not what it was. It was her ability to adapt to the stress she was under.
That's so interesting. As you're talking, I'm doing a body check as you're talking. I'm going through a symptom. I'm sure people who are listening are going through the same thing and going, "Oh my God, maybe I need to go check it out." It's amazing how much stress is impacting so many aspects of our lives. Yet it's one of the things that is not often talked about necessarily in a sense of. Have you tried exercise and nutrition versus, you know what I mean? Versus like, hey, here's a pill or something along those lines. So it's almost like we're putting a Band-Aid on a broken leg, it sounds like, and just creating this array of symptoms, and we're just numbing ourselves through that. What percentage, I guess you would say, of illnesses out there, if there, I don't know how they count it even, but what percentage of illnesses and these kind of challenges that you think are the underlying cause of those is stress?
Well, that's hard to answer, but I can tell you all the data shows that 90% of the diseases we deal with, chronic diseases, debilitating, fatal diseases, 90% of them are preventable, meaning there are lifestyle choices that lead to that. Now, if we're making a choice that leads to us getting sick, what does that say? We're making the wrong choices. A lot of people are making the wrong choices. So it's preventable. Now, the audience hearing this, they're all going to say, you're telling me my cancer is my own fault. I'm not saying that. Please don't
Mm,
misinterpret. That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying you've learned patterns and habits and behaviors that have been passed down in your family that lead to the illness. Sometimes, see, people say it's genetic, right? Well, there was the Human Genome Project. They found 20,000 genes in the human body, but there were 100,000 expressions of those genes, which means every gene can express itself in different ways. And so
mm,
they couldn't really narrow it down. Now that field is still expanding and growing. We're learning more and more about it, and we've advanced tremendously. But everybody has cancer in their body. 5% of our bodies are all cancer, but our immune system seeks out the cancerous cells, destroys them, and excretes them. So
mm,
we have to improve the immune system, not worry about the cancer. I'm not saying don't worry about the cancer, but I'm not saying so. Here's an example: inflammation increases under stress,
mm,
slows down the immune system, and then those cells that were already there that were cancerous now start to overgrow. And then think about it this way: so on my phone, I have a bunch of apps. Those apps aren't running unless I touch the app, right? I click on the app, I turn it on, it starts running. Your genes are the same way. I have a gene for hangovers, but I'm not hungover right now because that app hasn't been activated in me. It'll get activated if I stay up all night and drink. Then it'll get activated. I have a gene that teaches me and tells me to cough or sneeze, but I'm not walking around coughing and sneezing. I have the genes for it, but it only gets activated when it's turned on. Cancer is the same way. We all have different genes for different diseases. You can turn them on, you can turn them off. When we make the right lifestyle choices, we turn off those genes and
mm,
then we don't get those diseases.
mm. Yeah, no, absolutely. Where can one start? So you said the assessment is one, and then if somebody's like, okay, definitely need to make a change, what's next? Like, okay, I'm aware I need to make a change. I know something needs to change. Like, what are some starting points, I guess, for people to keep in mind?
Okay, it's very simple. I'm a chiropractor, so I always say that's number one. Make sure there's no interference in the nervous system. Adjustments, not only do they connect the brain to the body properly, but they remove the fight or flight response and shift the body out of that into rest and repair. Another one, very simply, is sunlight. Sunlight is very therapeutic, especially early morning sun has a lot of UVB rays, which are healing. Now, when
Mm,
sun hits your skin, your body converts cholesterol to vitamin D. And so sunlight is powerful and important. Go out in the sun early in the morning, drink your morning coffee in the sun if the weather's good. Another one is visualization. A lot of times we see the human body can't tell the difference between something that is actually experienced and
mm,
something that is visualized in vivid detail. You're in the personal training field. You can get someone to be stronger by what you said to them. You
mm,
can literally get them to be stronger. They can lift more weight if they're motivated differently. There are old, frail women that pick up a car off of a child because it was an emergency situation. So we can visualize ourselves. And if you visualize, you take 60 seconds and you go back to your favorite vacation spot and really visualize it in vivid detail where you feel the sand or the breeze or the views or whatever that excites you about being there. You open your eyes, your body will feel like you just came back from vacation, so you can
mm-hmm,
really de-stress. Exercise is powerful. You know the benefits of that. If you can't exercise for an hour, do it for half an hour, do it for three
mm-hmm,
minutes do it throughout the day. Zach Bush, the medical doctor, did a 4-minute workout that's been extremely popular. So you do this 4-minute workout 4 times a day. You can look it up. I don't need to tell you about it. Just type in 4-minute workout, hit search, and it'll pop up. But ideally, you exercise every day. Walking is so powerful. Walking has been shown to reverse heart disease. So
mm,
go for a 30-minute walk outside. Music is another one. Yeah, have you noticed you'll be at a wedding and there's the one table that has all the older people there,
mm-hmm,
and this one song comes on, and these people who look like they shouldn't even be able to walk, they start jumping up and down and dancing. Where did they get that energy and excitement? It was the music. A study
mm,
was done where they took older people and they put them in a community in a controlled area where everything was like from the 1970s. So they went 40 years back, 50 years back. So the newspaper that got delivered to their door was original, authentic 1970 newspaper. Television played 1970 programming. If they turned on the radio, it was music from the 1970s. Everything went back in time. Literally, not only did they have more energy and strength, arthritis got reversed in their bodies because they were in an environment they used to be when they were a lot younger. They stood taller, they felt better, diseases start to go away. It's powerful. We can visualize those things, but music is very powerful. Music will take you back to a time you were really happy. Music can take you to a time where you were really upset. And you relive those moments just by the first note of that one song. And you know what I'm talking about. This one song comes on, instantly you relive those moments, emotions, and it comes back. A lot of athletes use music to get themselves in the zone so they can perform better. Why don't you do that every morning before you go to work? Hey, I need to be at my best today. What song should I play? Play one song. And if you want to exercise for 3 minutes, but dance to that song, whatever it is. Breathing is so powerful too. Exhale is parasympathetic or rest and repair. Inhale is sympathetic. If you think about it, if someone just snuck up behind me and scared me, I'm not going to exhale. I'm going to inhale. I'm going to go and hold my breath. So inhale. When we are stressed, watch how you're breathing. When we're stressed, the breathing becomes a 1-to-1 ratio. Same amount of time as you inhale as you exhale. When you're not stressed, like you just had a nice Thanksgiving meal and you're resting on the couch and you're about to doze off, I guarantee you, if you count how long it takes you to breathe in and out, exhale is going to be twice as long as inhale. So you could do that for yourself. Let's say you're that wired and tired person. You say, I'm too tired to fall asleep tonight. Then what you do is count to 5 when you breathe in, count to 10 when you exhale. Make sure you're exhaling twice as long as inhale. Do 10 of those breaths. You won't make it to number 10. You'll pass out. You'll fall asleep. Deep, powerful sleep. Another one I'll tell you is how you eat is more important than what you eat. A lot of people say, oh, you have to eat these macros and these nutrients, macronutrients, micronutrients, all that stuff. I'm not discounting any of that. Don't get me wrong. All of that is important. But if I'm in my car in rush hour traffic on the phone with one of my employees or a business associate, and I'm stressed out and I'm late for my next appointment, and I put amazingly nutritious food in my mouth, that food will sit in my stomach for 2 hours. It won't get digested. And if it does, then it ferments and it rots. By the time it gets into my intestines, it's not good food anymore. It's not nutritious. So literally your mindset will turn good food into poison. And the opposite of that is the French paradox. See, the French are immune to heart disease and obesity. And I spent 3 weeks in France with some locals. We hung out because eating is a sacred act for them. You know, it's kind of like that in the Middle East too. We don't rush through meals. We sit down, we relax. I remember people used to go home when I lived in Iran, and I've been back there many times since then. A lot of people will go home at lunch. They change into their pajamas before they sit down and eat their lunch because they're going to take a nap after lunch and then back to work 2 hours later. I'm lucky if I have 15 minutes to eat lunch. But the way I do it is I go, okay, I have 15 minutes. The first 2 minutes, I'm going to play some classical music and relax. I'm going to say a prayer of gratitude over my food. And I'm going to get my mind in the right state. And I won't eat fast. I'll eat slow, as if I have all day to eat. And when my 15 minutes is up, I pack up the food, put it away, and go back to work. Because I want what I eat to become nutrition in my body, not to be in a state of stress. So that's some of them. One last one I'll give you is people you hang around with is powerful. Make sure at least once a day, every day, you're next to someone you absolutely enjoy the company of and communicate with them. That is so powerful.
These are so powerful, honestly, Dr. Amir, is so powerful. Like, it's so applicable. It's easy to apply. It's practical. I just love it. I mean, really, like as I'm listening to you, I'm like, here's the things I could be doing better. So yeah. It's and I'm sure people listening are thinking the same thing. So absolutely brilliant tips. I love it. Listen, I know you wrote a brilliant book, which is on my list to read as well. Show it to me again. You have it right there, I think. Yeah, for the people who are watching, the cracking stress secret. That's awesome. So tell me a little bit more. Who's this book for? Where is it available?
So this is my second book. The first one was written for my patients. This one is written for the people who are trying to achieve something amazing. So, and it started out with I was working on opening another office, and I was working really hard. And before my dad passed away, he said, "Why are you working so hard? Aren't you gonna burn yourself out? Aren't you gonna get sick?" And I said, "Dad, I get it. I know what you're saying. I'm a doctor, so I know the value of health. But I can tell you this one thing: health is worthless if it comes at the sacrifice, at the expense of my goals, my dreams, and my future aspirations. I want both. I want to go after my dreams, succeed, and still be healthy. You need both." So this book is for those people who go, okay, I got to work hard. Sometimes I'm going to have less sleep. Sometimes I'm going to be rushed through lunch. How do I manage it, and how do I still succeed? It's really kind of, if you've got that achiever mentality and you want to be successful, I tell you, earlier I said how healthy you are depends on how much stress you can handle. Well, how successful you are also depends on how much stress you can handle, and how big your income grows also depends on how much stress you can handle. You're wondering, can you have both? Can you be healthy and have all the material things and all the other things? I think it's possible because people have it. I've got it. I've got an amazing family. Not to brag, but we literally we live a dream life, and we have everything. We live on the side of a mountain. Our property has its own tennis court, its own pool. When I look out, I oversee the city lights. I mean, we have beautiful sunrise views right over the city. The night lights look amazing. I mean, I have to pinch myself every time I pull up to the house and go inside. Everything is great. So you can do it. You can, and I'm in better shape now than I was 20 years ago. So it's possible. You can have it and you can do it.
That's beautiful. Well, thank you for that. Where can people get in touch with you if, where can they come? I feel like I need to make a trip to Frederick now. I'm in Northern Virginia, and I feel like my body, as you're talking, I feel my body. I'm very, very well aware of everything in my body now.
Yeah. My office website is midatlanticclinic.com. My personal website is drrashidian.com, just drrashidian.com. And our YouTube channel is called Real Chiropractic. Facebook is Mid-Atlantic Clinic. Anyways, you can find me on all the social media networks. You can contact me through those. We'd love to have you come out and see us at some point, and bring your book. I'll sign it for you.
Sounds good. Well, thank you so much for your time again, and I think brilliant information. Very much appreciated. Thank you.
My pleasure. Thank you. Thanks for having me.